They steal time, erase memories, and relieve pain, especially during surgery. In this episode, we take a deep dive into the mysterious lives of people only next to God, anesthesiologists. With me on the program, I am joined by Dr. Joseph Kyobe Kiwanuka, who is the president of the Association of Anesthesiologists in Uganda on the show. So, I cannot wait. Welcome, Dr. Kiwanuka, to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Doc, first of all, the word anesthesiologist is confusing to everyone. Speaking that word alone is just so difficult. But it's good to have you on the program, Doctor. Let's start from your job.
Yes.
What does it entail?
It's a difficult one to explain to, the layman, but I try to put it in simple terms, that I'm there to take away the pain during an operation, to make the patient comfortable, and also enable the surgeon to actually operate. So we are there to make sure that the body systems can actually function quite well, and we play a very big role during the surgery and even after the operation, because if things go wrong during the surgery, then someone will not heal. So that's
Dr. Kiwanuka, I might be justified to say that you are close to God. You put people to sleep and wake them up. I wanted you to walk us through before surgery. I've been privileged to be in different operations as a journalist. I have seen brain surgery. I have seen heart surgeries. I have been to care where they open up the head for patients with spinal bifida.
Yes.
And I have seen the intense work that anesthetists or anesthesiologists do. They are on their toes all throughout the surgery. So this episode of this program is really to take us into your world. And I'll not ask you the hard questions, but we want to understand your world. From the time you're told that you're going to have a surgery, how does it look like?
Well, it's good that you during your work you noticed the anesthesiologist, because quite a number of people do not even know that we exist as a discipline. But we are getting out there for one reason or another, because our importance is being noticed. So I'll start with when I'm told that there is a patient for an operation, we are going to go and meet with the patient and have a look at what is going on in their life, both in terms of what disease they have and any other diseases that they might have. Then also go ahead and examine them and come up with a plan. Because a lot of the things that you do in your life, your kind of lifestyle, or the medication that you are going to have, that you are going to take during your day-to-day living, is going to impact our conduct of anesthesia and the safety that we shall have therein. So having examined, sometimes we are going to order for some tests, because they are going to help to guide us as we go ahead with our job. Then we shall then eventually we come up with a plan, and many times we are going to have a chat and tell you that this is the plan. So when we talk about sleep, it's really not sleep, it's way deeper than sleep. Because when you sleep in the night, you are likely to dream. If we do our job properly, there is not even a dream. You are way deeper than we should be when we talk about sleep.
So you basically put someone on pause.
Well, their brain will be on pause, depending on the method that we've come up with. Because we've moved from where everyone went to be put to sleep, what we call general anesthesia. And sometimes, because of safety or because of some other considerations, what we could do is even just numb a part of your body.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be your arm, if they're going to just operate on your arm. And if it is too risky to put you to sleep, then that is what we shall.
Let's talk about the putting you to sleep. Yes, that particular part of anesthesia.
which everyone fears.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if they tell you you're having surgery tomorrow, you say bye-bye to your family, you give all the passwords, your phone passwords to your wife, ATM, everything, say, if I don't come back, I am gone.
No, in this
And
day and
it's
age-
always scary. Every time people are going for surgeries, it's always scary for both the parent or for both the family and even you who is going for this surgery.
We totally
Basically, our
understand
lives
that.
are in your hands.
Exactly, because the anesthesiologist is the person standing over you and making sure that things are going well all the time. So we've moved far from the time where it was that scary. Right now, it is much, much safer because we have the tools and the skill set to make sure that we actually have good outcomes, even among the sickest of patients. So as we go in, as we discuss, especially if we are going to have a general anesthetic, that is the put to sleep, we are going to take you through the steps of what is going to happen. For some of them, we shall take over the breathing, meaning that you use our machines and we shall enable the patient to breathe throughout, but we keep monitoring and making sure that you are taking in enough oxygen, that the medication we are giving is just enough. Okay. Sometimes, because it could be a short procedure, we may not take over the breathing. We may allow the patient to actually breathe during that time. Sometimes we may need to support, say, your heart during that time. If you are talking to a cardiac anesthesiologist, yes, the time comes when that heart will be stopped using some medications, and then other machines will come in, and then we are going to work with, say, a perfusionist, another person who is going to enable to make sure that your blood keeps flowing through your body. So all this, it really spans, but it is going to depend on what kind of illness you have and any other diseases and medications and your level of fitness for the operation. So
It's a very delicate part of medicine, I should add, because what you're telling me, Doc, is that you then take over. You can support the heart to keep pumping.
yes,
You support the lungs to keep breathing.
yes,
You take over someone's life because the brain is literally shut down.
that is why it is a specialty. Many people may not know that it exists, but that's why it is that special. Because if it is done right, we get very good results. But if done wrong for any particular reason, then it's going to have a very, very big impact.
And because that person's life on that table is in your hands,
yes,
attention to detail is very important. And I know that we have had this conversation that a milligram, everything has to be perfect in the right time, in the right amounts. Take us there at the operating table and the pressure that you have to ensure that this person, one, does not wake up in the middle of surgery, but two, that they will have to wake up when the surgery is done.
yes. So that is the kind of risk profile that gets to be discussed with the patient. And it would be, depending on the setup you have, sometimes it should not be just immediately before you get into the operation, because the patient needs to understand what is going to happen to them. Unfortunately, in Uganda, most of the surgeries come in as emergencies, so we may not get the appropriate time, but also that increases the risk for the surgery. So after you've had a discussion, then you are going to go into the operating room. And sometimes...
So the discussions are the worst, what could happen for the worst?
yes. Well, what we are going to do, the things that could happen, and the preparation that there is in order to avoid those things happening.
Okay.
Yes. So when you walk into the operating room, you're going to see a lot of machines, but most of them are going to be used by the anesthesiologist to just make sure that everything is going fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it is that important. And we love our machines, okay, and our monitors, but they are there to just make sure that the patient is going to be fine.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, then we get into the theater.
Yes, when we get into the theater, sometimes someone has maybe a cannula or we've put an IV access. So sometimes some of the medicine will go through there. Sometimes we are going to just give you a mask to breathe in, and you are going to keep breathing in the medicine. And this usually do for children who will fear a lot of pricks here and there. So we shall give them a mask, and we just keep getting the medicine through, and then they will slowly go off. There are plenty of medicines that we are going to use during any kind of operation, but it's really dependent on what the disease process that is being treated is.
Yeah. So at that time, you're putting the brain to sleep, to deep sleep.
Yes.
And you're taking over the functions of the brain.
Well, there are parts of the brain that we are going to put to sleep, but there are also other medicines. There are sometimes we could give you a medicine that, okay, we shall give you a medicine that puts you to sleep and you're out. But then in order for us to control your breathing, then we give another medicine which is going to relax you so that you cannot even move a finger at all. Okay? So we shall then put, say, a tube that goes to the trachea, the windpipe, and it's through that we shall keep giving oxygen and sometimes other medicines. Connect you to our machine, and we set for you the rate at which you will breathe over the duration of the operation.
And at that time, your job is to ensure that that person is alive as the surgeon does everything that they are doing.
Yes. But the surgeon also needs the conditions that allow him to operate, because if the patient keeps moving, then it is also dangerous in terms of the operation. Because if you are dealing with a very delicate area and the patient jerks at all, then you could end up injuring something else. So that was the other part that we enable the surgeon to operate, give them the conditions that allow them to operate.
Yeah. And I have talked to some anesthesiologists. Some of them are my friends, Dr. Kakaire Dennis, and some of those. But they say the margin of error is close to zero because an extra milligram
Yes.
will put someone to eternal sleep.
Yes. Some of the medicines we even take a fraction of a milligram, and we talk of a microgram, in order for us to be able to give you the right dose. So medication errors can happen. So that's why you actually need the right skill set there.
Wow. And you have to be on your toes and you have to be clear-minded. There's no margin of error.
No error. Errors are very costly in our practice. Very, very costly. They can lead to disability and, at worst, death.
Wow. And you also told me that you literally are leading the surgery, but from the back end. So when you tell the surgeon stop, then he has to stop.
They'll stop. The only caveat to that is if there is something that is bleeding. But once we tell the surgeon to stop, then it's time to stop, because it is more than a request. It's because it could be one of the things that is leading to the instability of the patient. So we work as a team, and it's always very good to be able to communicate, and there is a lot of communication that goes back and forth.
Wow. So your primary job is to make sure this patient is still alive.
Because it is not only alive, but safe. Because we want you to come back and you are able to function even as close to your baseline as possible. So that's why we have to do things in a very, very safe manner. It would be a terrible thing if you went in for an operation and you come back with a disability because something went wrong in there. So, whereas we are watching our machines, but many times we're also looking at what the surgeon is doing.
Yeah.
Because we need to know. it could impact our patient.
Wow. It's a very, for lack of a better word, one of the hardest parts of medicines, because I know that you're only about 80 in the country, to 86 to a population of 44 million people over.
Yes, yes.
That is very few of you to actually be able to manage a population of 44. What explains the fact that we have few anesthesiologists in the country?
Well, you have to really go back, and it's because of the lack of that discipline that has retarded surgery. So previously, what would happen was the doctor came, gave you some medicine, you went to sleep, and well, they went ahead and operated. But of course, that led to the fear that people have, because one of the biggest questions we get asked is, "Will I wake up?"
Yeah, I mean, I would ask you the same. I'll say, Dr. Kiwanuka, will I make sure I wake up, please?
Of course, because we also want our patients to wake up. So there was a lot of lack of safety, and hence the discipline came up. So in Uganda, whereas we are 86 anesthesiologists, we have other cadres, and we have anesthetic officers and assistant anesthetic officers, and they are doing a very good job out there. But we still need, as we go in for more and more complicated surgeries, then surely you need the biggest skill set available to you. Okay? Just like you wouldn't want the medical officer off the street to come and say, "Oh, I'm going to open up your chest and work on your heart." As surgery gets more and more complicated, and a lot of patients now have 1, 2, or 3 diseases that they are treating on top of what they are coming in for the surgery for, then surely you need the biggest skill set available.
Yeah, but what explains that number?
The number.
Is it because it's difficult, or is it because there's no interest? I mean, I've really looked at interesting parts of medicines that have significantly low numbers. I mean, oncologists, anesthesists. I've been asking myself, so why do we have very few of them?
Because at some point we did not know what these people do. It is very easy to wake up and admire someone on TV and say, "Oh," because, well, every child wants to become a pilot. But they see what these people do every single day. But the anesthesiologist who is inside the operating room, at some point you actually hardly got out of the operating room to go and interact with the patients. You saw them at the theater door and then worked on them, and that was the last they saw of you. So even the people we are training in medicine were hardly getting to know what this specialty is. But now they are getting to know. And they are actually finding it very, very interesting. And the numbers that have come up in the last 5 years, actually very many. So you'll keep seeing the numbers grow, and hopefully they can spread out all over the country to be able to serve the population.
Nicely said. Thank you. Let me take you back into your world. It must be an emotional job, both exciting and emotional, to put someone to sleep, but also to wake them up. Have there been moments when you've been emotionally drained by your job?
Yes. Well, like you say, the numbers are very small compared to the population. And that requires a lot of your energy every single day. But we get to see some of the beautiful moments, because if you've numbed someone part of the way, I keep remembering an old woman who came in for an operation, and we numbed the lower part of her body. And she just could not believe how that was happening, that she was having surgery while able to talk to us. She declared while in the operating room that she was going to send her granddaughters to school just because of that one instance. And there are thousands of stories. But then sometimes you're going to lose a patient. And definitely that's very, very tough.
Yeah.
Very tough.
When they don't
for the
wake
entire
up.
team. Yes, because you've not only lost a patient, but this is a patient, there is a family out there. Someone has lost either mother, father, or brother, sister, and it's very, very
And they've
emotionally
been in
draining.
your hands.
Yes. Because we are there, we do provide the care, and we care about our patients.
Yeah. Any challenges for you in this field of anesthesiologist?
There are very, very many challenges. Anesthesia, when you look at Uganda and our approach to health, we are concentrating on the diseases infection, okay? And then, well, there are these non-communicable diseases that are now coming up, high blood pressure, diabetes, and the like. So there is hardly any say when it comes to surgery and anesthesia. So we keep saying, the common saying is anesthesia is a stepchild of surgery, because many times it was swallowed up and there was no face to it. So that already sets us back. So the funding that is available for surgery in this country is so limited that people are actually not getting the surgery they need on time.
Yeah.
And the longer you delay surgery, then the worse the disease process is going to be. So by the time they are getting to you, you're already dealing with complications, and definitely complicates your life, but is also endangering the patient much, much more. So we've got to rethink the way we look at healthcare in this country and actually start promoting that surgical care is a big part of it. Currently, it isn't. So when we highlight that, then surely we are going to provide the funding and the equipment and the skill set. There are so many anesthesiologists out there who would want to work for government. There are so many anesthetic officers out there who want to work with government to provide the care. And it's not there. They have not been taken up. So if we do not try to address this, then surely we are letting down the population of Uganda.
Wow. But I also know, because you guys know your few, you also overly charge. Because this is a specialty, surgery cannot go on without me. So you're like, my charge is 400,000 per surgery, or this, and many of you, for lack of a better word, are freelancers. Like, I'll do surgery in this hospital, then go to this hospital. You basically have a whole week's rota of going here, and this is my rate. So you either want me or not. And that I have heard that from so many patients.
Well, I wish you could go back and pick those patients' billing forms. And you look at what the surgical fee is and what the anesthesiologist's fee is. I will not tell you the percentage. We do not overcharge. We actually are not even charging our worth. Just go, you are the journalist, and do your investigation. Go and pick the billing form, and you look at, this is a surgical fee, this is an anesthesia fee, and you tell me whether we're actually billing our worth. I think we're actually being cheated. We've got to just do better, much, much better. In terms of the remuneration, it's actually unfair. There is no equity in it. And that's the reality. There is no equity. Because if we brought out what was suggested, where we actually do it per hour, then it's going to be different. Do your work.
So let me just ask, Doc, so on average, basically, what we've been hearing largely is doctors are not paid well, doctors are not paid well.
Yes.
Is it the same that applies to you, anesthesists? Because you just said, it's not, the remuneration is not worth the effort.
No, it's not about, we need to change that. It's not about being worth the effort. I'm talking about equity.
Yeah.
There is no equity in the remuneration. You go across all these private hospitals where they're saying they are overbilling. No, we are not overbilling. We are not. So the doctors have been paid, but right now what Uganda needs is for these people to be recruited into service.
Yeah.
If you go outside of the teaching hospitals of this country, you're not going to find anesthesiologists. And that's very, very many. When you look at the Ministry of Health documents, they're going to tell you that anesthetic officers at 30%. 30% of positions have been filled. That's a very small figure. So if they're providing the service that they should be providing, and they're at 30%, are they actually being paid right?
Wow.
I know of anesthetic officers out there in the periphery who've not taken leave at all. They work Monday to Monday, 52 weeks a year, providing a service. How do you then equate that to the nurse who comes in and they're doing an 8-hour shift, or the doctor who comes in and they're doing a particular shift and going away? So is there equity?
So the challenge is not that the anesthesists or anesthetic officers are not there, but they are not being given the opportunity to serve.
They are not being given the opportunity.
Why so?
Like I said, surgical care is at the backbone of the healthcare policy. We concentrate on malaria that accounts for 25% of admissions in this country. That's as per the health sector performance report. But when you just look at that table, you are going to add up all the potential surgical, all the potential cases that would require surgical care. And the moment you tally them up, they're going to account for 10% of admissions in this country. Have we given the appropriate funding? Have we put the right amount of personnel in the different hospitals? No, you cannot expect miracles in terms of surgical care when you've not facilitated. So that has to be addressed. We need to rethink both at policy, but also implement the policy.
What's your message to government and those in the Ministry of Health?
That we need to rethink. Surgical care is an essential part of healthcare. And, well, some time back, probably 20, 30 years ago, Uganda's life expectancy was at 36. We are now at 63. That simply means we are going to have a whole lot more surgical disease. The amount of Cancer Institute needs surgeons, it needs anesthesiologists. Heart Institute needs the same. Those places have to function. But does everyone come from Arua to come to Cancer Institute? No. Some of these things can be managed in Arua. Surgical care is one of the leading causes of impoverishing expenditure in this country. Many people just can't afford it. Have we put the personnel out there? No, we need to rethink and actually implement the things that we have in the books. It doesn't help to say you need to have 3 anesthesiologists at this level and they're not there and we go and drive the V8s. Let's put the right people in the right places to provide the service to the populace. I think that's what we need to rethink entirely.
Yeah. Doc, I also heard that anesthesists have a special place in the ICUs. It's normally a double thing,
Yes.
Critical care and anesthesiologists. That would be an overload, right?
It is definitely an overload, but it's something that we enjoy doing because, again, in critical care, you are caring for the sickest of the sick. And anesthesia positions us in such a way that we actually understand what is going on. It doesn't mean that other disciplines cannot, because other disciplines are coming on board, but it puts us in such a sweet spot that we actually understand a lot of what's going on. And then we can consult all these other disciplines to help us in management of some of the other conditions. Mm. So again, there is a lack of ICU space in this country. A very, very critical lack of ICU care. Because right now, if you needed an ICU bed in a public hospital, then probably God be with you. It's not going to happen. If you look at the regional referral hospitals, you're supposed to have critical care units at each of those. And on paper, yes, things are happening. But practically, no, they are not. They are very, very few. These are things that need to be thought about. But I assure you that positioning an anesthesiologist, okay, 3 anesthesiologists there, they are going to address some of those things. Because they are going to be able to provide the care that is needed. But if it is only one person, then they are going to try and deliver what they can, which is going to probably be operative care other than critical care. Yes. But it's not once or twice that people are being moved from left and right, Masaka referring to Mbarara. And should that be happening?
No.
No, it shouldn't. If we are serious about healthcare, then surely we should give it the funding and the means that it deserves, because it's a health population that is going to be productive. If you have a very sick population, surely, what's going to happen? Yeah. There's no production.
What does the future look like for anesthesia?
The future is bright because the numbers are coming out. And many times people are coming out and they're saying, okay, does government give me a job? No. And they're being swallowed up by all these private places. So the private hospitals, I know private hospitals that have an anesthesia provider within their operating room 24/7. An anesthesiologist. And another one, manning critical care. That should be the standard. You know, when I came in, I looked at Kumla Dumo. And yes, that should be the standard. And we should be proud enough. We should not be sending our dignitaries abroad for care that they can get here. Because we have the skill set and we have the equipment to be able to provide this care. I've not heard of a minister from ABCD coming to Uganda and they are going to die from here. Why should Uganda be exporting its people outside for them to receive medical care that they can pick from here? So we should be proud enough. The president should be proud enough to get into any of the regional referral hospitals in this country and receive care. Every minister should be proud enough to walk into a public hospital for care. But unless we try and establish that standard, then we are not really going to address this issue.
I mean, they just get on the next flight and they're in Germany, they are in the US.
That's not fair. That's not fair. If the MPs can just fly out of this place, then what happens when they have an emergency in the middle of the night? From a newspaper report, I can be able to tell that so-and-so died of this, but it's because they didn't care enough about their health center for.
That's true.
So these are important things to be able to address. So if you are an MP out there and you look at your health center and you are not proud enough to receive care from there, surely you need to rethink your position and whatever you're doing.
Wow. When you're speaking this, my mind goes back to, I visited Koboko.
Yes.
That hospital is very unique because Koboko Hospital serves communities from South Sudan, from West Nile. And I saw this anesthetist who was doing the delivery of mothers' C-sections.
Yes.
I talked to him and he said, I work all throughout.
Yes, that's what I'm telling you, that he does not get time off.
I have to, when you're going to have lunch, they say there is someone who is going into, wants an emergency surgery. When you finish this one and they're in recovery, they are calling you. And the cycle just goes on and on and on. And he said, I have no one to help.
Exactly. But you'll go and find that there are 2 or 3 positions that are unfilled. So if a private setup came calling for that gentleman, you think he's going to stay?
No.
And then what becomes of that community? So we can no longer hide and say anesthesia providers are not important. They're extremely important. And we know that. And Parliament knows that. And the ministry knows that. So aren't the positions being filled?
Yeah.
Those are things we need to question every single day. When we wake up and so has this woman has died because there was no anesthesia provider, and the position remains unfilled for the next 5 years.
And it happens because the gyne will tell you we have to go for emergency cesarean.
Exactly.
And there's no anesthetist. He cannot continue with the surgery.
Exactly.
And they have to actually call that person who said I was working the entire night.
Yes.
And he has to come back if possible.
But in that case, it is unsafe because he is tired. It becomes dangerous for the patient. So safety goes we have to address the issue of the numbers because the people to be employed are there.
Dr. Joseph, thank you very much.
Thank you too.
For sharing your time. Interesting. Dr. Joseph Kiwanuka is leading anesthesists in Uganda. And these are people right next to God because they put you to sleep, wake you up. We've had the challenges, we've had, the overworking that the anesthesists go through, especially those who are in public facilities. And the fact that we only have about 30% of those positions filled in all our regional referral hospitals. Think about that. This is a special edition of the show, so I'm just going to call out to government and the Ministry of Health to do something about it. If we have people who have gone to school and they have studied anesthesia or anesthesiology, then let's give them the jobs. Let's employ them. I think it's a critical part of medicine that we need to pay attention to. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm Solomon Serwanja, and this is The Hard Questions.